I am making this video for myself, but I hope that it helps you guys too. Every single year I have the same problem, and that problem is that I can't control myself. Every single fall as I'm walking through my garden or squeezing through my garden, I think to myself, why on earth did I put in so many plants that I can barely even make my way through here? I know that it probably hinders the growth of some of my plants, but I do it every year. So this year I am making this log for myself for when it is time to get ready to design and plan out my 2026 garden. I'm seeing my garden in my full glory, overgrown, wild, rambling everywhere, and I can remind myself, hey Brienne, you probably don't need to plant 120 tomatoes in your garden, okay? I think that most gardeners have the same issue as me. We get so burnt out from our summer garden and our fall garden, and then it's November and December and we have a break and we enjoy it so much, but then that feeling of thinking about your garden comes back and you start oohing and awing over the seed catalogs, and before you know it, if you're anything like me, you are drawing out your garden on grid paper and designing every single foot, and you have calculated how many plants you can fit into every bed, and you pack in as much as you can on this paper of this beautiful organized garden and what it's gonna look like. But then comes time for seed starting and you go completely overboard, or I should stop saying you. I go completely overboard and I end up with hundreds and hundreds of plants, and I tend to them and I raise them from seeds to seedlings to beautiful, healthy, thriving plants, and then I harden them off, and then I'm like, what in the world was I thinking? What am I gonna do with all of these plants? I have enough plants for 3 full gardens. And so I sell and I give away, and eventually I move some to my compost pile. But it goes without fail every single year that I pack way too much into my beds. And don't even get me started. Those are the plants that I started in my basement. Don't even get me started on the plants that I direct sow by seed into my garden, because it doesn't matter that I have been gardening for 10 years now. I still have no comprehension of how a tiny seed ends up into this massive sprawling plant. My brain I just can't do it. And so I end up with this packed wild garden, which is hugely abundant and fruitful and thriving, yes, but also is a little bit hard to manage. Disease spreads easily when your plants are touching, and it's just kind of chaos. And so for my 2026 garden, I'm making this log for myself. We're gonna go through and talk about each bed, what I put in there this year, each succession, and did I like it, did I not, and what I want to do different for 2026. And why not start with this beautiful trellis that I am standing in front of? If we go back to planting out the trellis, I loaded this thing full, mostly with cucumbers and melons, but also beans, and obviously these beautiful loofahs. Now, I have cucumber beetles in my garden terribly. I struggle with them every year. I have for years, and they kill out all my cucumbers and all my melons pretty much every year. I'm not sure why I'm still trying at this point, but I am. But it doesn't matter because I put in these 2. This is 2 luffa plants, and they have covered this entire 32-foot long trellis with luffa. It's insane. It's gorgeous. The flowers are closed right now, but I have shown you multiple times how beautiful it is when they're open. It's gorgeous and I love it, and it is loaded with luffa gourd here on the inside. Look how pretty that is. I just counted, and right now I think that I have 19, although they hide pretty well. I think that those 19 luffa are going to give me enough that I'm not going to grow this next year. This is the first year that I've grown it. And I wanted those loofah to make homemade soap scrub bars with. And so I think that I have absolutely plenty to do that. And I'm not gonna grow this again next year. What I am gonna grow here, I think, or what I think right now, what I think would be a good idea to grow on this is squash of the C. moscata variety. So that is zucchino rampicante and honeynut squash and Long Island cheese pumpkins. Those things are resistant to squash vine borers, and they're going to give us food to feed my family. You can eat luffa gourd in its early stages, but that's not why I grew it. I grew it for a product to use in my home, but it doesn't feed my family, and I want to focus more on that in 2026. And also to anybody who is thinking about growing luffa for the first time, this is a 32-foot long trellis. It has taken the entire thing, but it is also now trailing down on the ground and starting to take over the rest of the garden as well. In the bed lining the trellis, I have a perennial sage. That I am so incredibly thankful for. This plant has gave and gave and gave this year. Obviously, it's a perennial, so it's coming back next year on its own, whether I wanted it to or not, but I definitely do want it to. Next to that, I have some paprika peppers. These again are something that I will grow again next year. I grew these last year as well, but what I'm gonna do differently is not have them packed in so tight. So I planted the trellis, and then I did 2 peppers, and then I did a row of onions, which has been succession planted with some beans here. And these peppers, I think, were just too crowded. So in 2026, I would like to plant the trellis, do 1 row of peppers, and then my onions or beans or whatever I would like to plant on just the edge. The next pepper that I have in these beds are shishito peppers, and these plants are wildly productive. Like, I have picked hundreds of shishito peppers, and we do love them, and they will be coming back next year, but I will only be planting one. 1 shishito pepper is all you need, Brie. That's it. You don't need to put, I think I have 5 or 6, I have 3 right here, but 5 or 6 spaced throughout the garden. And I just don't eat that many shishitos. So I use it to make pesto. We like to just saute them and eat them with like a garlic aioli is really good with dinner. And they are delicious. But 1 plant is all I need of these shishito peppers. The next pepper is Violet Sparkle. This is just a really sweet snacking pepper, and we love these. I like to put these in my kids' lunch boxes, cut them in half, put a little bit of cream cheese inside, and they think it is a great snack. These are definitely coming back to my garden. I think the next thing to point out is just that, Brienne, you do not have to let every single volunteer basil that pops up stay in your garden. This is lemon basil, and it smells fantastic. Like, it smells so good. My hands are gonna smell like this for the next like 30 minutes unless I touch something else strong smelling, but I don't use it. I walk by it, I enjoy the smell. It smells incredible. And I don't know, there may be like a great way to use it. If so, if you grow lemon basil in your garden and you have some great uses for it, please tell me. I don't like basil tea. I know that would probably be a really good use for it. I may throw some in some vinegar for like an all-natural cleaning solution. But other than that, I don't really know of any uses. So let me know about that lemon basil and if I should let it come back next year. I also had a ton of volunteer Thai basil. And again, that's not something that I use a ton of. I like Genovese basil, I like sweet basil, I like lettuce leaf basil, I like the Italian cooking basils. I use a lot of those. I make a lot of pesto. But the different varieties, like, I love the smell, I love the flowers, but as far as eating them goes, I probably don't need 100 volunteer basil in my garden. Next up is a big patch of oregano. I do love having this in my garden. I use a ton of it fresh. I also freeze dry it. I use a lot of this in my cooking, and it also has such a great smell. So this is something, it's a perennial, it's coming back anyways, but I'm very thankful for this plant in my garden. These plants have just kind of been completely covered by weeds and also by the luffa, but I do have some blot peppers here, and these are my very favorite bell pepper variety. They're so colorful, they're beautiful, and they're very sweet, and they're prolific. You can tell they don't even care that they have been completely covered by these other plants here. This trellis started out as sugar snap peas in the very early spring. We ate our fill of them, and then once it starts to warm up, they usually get powdery mildew, and I pulled them out and I went in with rattlesnake pole beans and cucumbers. Like I told you, I have a terrible cucumber beetle problem, so this is how the cucumbers are currently looking. They're not obviously surviving or producing anything at all. I do think I got 2 to 3 cucumbers off of that vine, so probably not worth it to me unless I am going to do something stronger to manage the cucumber beetles. I try really hard to have an organic garden, and I want to keep it that way. I told myself I was gonna put beneficial nematodes in the garden this spring, and I did not do it. Those are supposed to help with cucumber beetles. So here is your reminder, Brianne. Put beneficial nematodes in your garden when it starts to warm up next year, and hopefully that will help with the cucumber beetle problem, because I am running low on pickles and I would love to be able to can pickles again next year. Rattlesnake pole beans, however, are doing fantastic. I decided to let these dry on the vine and save them for a soup bean. So that is what I'm doing, and it's going really well. They have really pretty beans too. I don't know what to blame, but this entire L-shaped bed was bell peppers this year, mostly. I think there was like 1 banana pepper plant in here. But these big, beautiful, healthy plants have been worthless. Like, I have gotten almost no bell peppers, and they just recently have started putting them on. And these plants, these were started in my basement, so they weren't small plants when I put them out here. And they are now, like, I wouldn't say loaded, but they have a decent amount of peppers on them. But we're only, and they're flowering. But the thing is that we are only like 2 months from our first frost, so I don't know if they are even going to have long enough to ripen up. We will see. I'm not going to do anything with them. I don't know if this is a I found one beautiful purple bell pepper. I don't know if this was a weather issue this year or if my bed is lacking something. I honestly don't know, but this bed has just really disappointed me this year. Still, I am thankful for every bit of food that I get out of this garden. I found a couple banana peppers and 1 more lilac bell. I just scoured through there really well, and actually there is finally a good bit of fruit on there. Hopefully they will ripen in time, but I was able to harvest a little bit today, so I will take it. Again, I just don't know what the issue with this bed was, but hopefully next year I will have a lot more productivity out of it. I think maybe my peppers were too close, and I didn't do a good job of staking them up, so those are 2 things that I am going to do better on next year. Also, I should not say that this bed was worthless, because it was lined with onions, and I had an incredible onion year. I had onions kind of throughout the entire garden, and this bed grew them just as well as any other bed. Here in this area of the garden, I have 2 metal beds, and then I have an in-ground bed and 2 more metal beds. In the early spring, I planted the 3 metal beds with potatoes, and that was a great harvest. I will definitely do that again. And then I succession planted them, this one with purple whole beans, this one with pumpkins, which look like they are doing amazing. I think these are the Kai pumpkins and also a honeynut squash. There's nothing on them yet. These were a fall planting, but they are going big and look really beautiful, so I'm excited for those. The in-ground section I had planted out in broccoli and cauliflower, and it was mildly successful. My broccoli and cauliflower have done the best in my garden in the bed on the side of the trellis, but not the one that we just looked at with peppers, the one on the opposite side. So that is where I will be growing them next year. And I'm not sure what I will do for early spring with this in-ground bed. I did a succession after I took that broccoli and cauliflower out with corn, and that was very successful. I had an entire full Aldi's bag of corn, and actually I saw that I missed one when I was out here the other day. But I don't see it now, so I guess the squirrels and the grasshoppers will get it. And then in this last metal bed that I had pumpkins in, I did a succession sowing of jade green beans. These are not producing yet, but they are starting to flower, so it won't be long. You can also see that I have some volunteer potatoes going on in here, and I'm not sad about that one bit. Hopefully these will mature before we get a frost. I'm not sure if they will or not. This L-shaped bed at the back of my garden, I had parsley and carrots and beets in here, and I tore all that out and I planted it with spinach. But the problem is that I didn't take care of it after I planted it, and it is now full of weeds. There are also, like, I don't know what that is. I think that's dill. No? Cosmos, maybe? I don't know. There's stuff growing in here. Here, let me show it to you. Okay, so like there's the spinach that I planted, but there's very little of it. What is this? This is familiar. It's not strong smelling. I kind of feel like it's cosmos. I didn't even grow cosmos in my garden this year, so I'm not. Oh, you know what? I know what that is. That is chamomile. There was a huge chamomile plant here. That's not probably gonna make before fall, but I guess we will see. There's also just some random cilantro, some random carrots, but overall this bed is just weeds and I need to come clean it up. I think this is my favorite thing in the garden right now. You guys, my tomatoes did not do great this year. We had such crazy weather and they all got blight. But this is a volunteer and it is healthy and happy and thriving. It is giving tons of tomatoes. I'm fairly certain that these are Principe Borgheses. They're delicious, whatever they are. But this tomato plant is massive, and I think that's how it goes. Like the plants that you tend to and you care for and you love and you put so much work into die, and the ones that just show up here by accident are absolutely thriving. I am so excited for these squash and zucchini because every year I tell myself that I am going to do a fall planting, and then by the time fall gets here, I am exhausted from all of the preserving and I'm burnt out and I'm hot and I'm tired and I just don't get to it. But this year, I got to it, guys. I harvested cucumber beetles are swarming over here, but I harvested my first zucchini from these plants this week, and I grabbed 3 more this morning, and they are loaded with flowers. They're also completely loaded with cucumber beetles, so hopefully they won't harm them in any way. I don't think that they do any damage to zucchini plants, but I would still like to get rid of them because I'm just giving them a home, and I don't want them to overwinter and destroy next year's cucumber plants. This is my hot pepper bed. This year I grew Megatron jalapenos, I grew Sugar Rush peach, and I also grew some red cherries. Now the red cherries didn't do well. The plants didn't look good when I put them in the garden though. Everything else has done incredible, but I will say this was too many jalapenos for me. I'm gonna freeze dry them. I'm letting them turn red, all these jalapenos, and I'm gonna freeze dry them and make like a red jalapeno powder. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the Sugar Rush peach. But for somebody who doesn't like spicy, I think I went a little bit overboard on the hot peppers. And next year I probably won't grow anything hotter than a jalapeno because my basement is already loaded with tons of hot sauce that I made the year before and we still have not eaten through. I am in the middle of my sweet potato bed. It is time that I should be able to start harvesting some of these, although I haven't yet. Let's see if there's anything in here. I have multiple different varieties. Okay, and here is a purple. It is still fairly small though, so I'm not gonna pull anything else. I'm gonna let those keep going. We had such a dry summer that these may need a little bit more time. And I'm not feeling any potatoes right there where I pulled that. I am still hopeful that I have enough time to get a good sweet potato harvest, and we have been getting rain over the last over the last week or two, so hopefully that will help us out in the sweet potato department. My tomatoes this year have gotten hit with disease. Really early on, they got blight. We got a ton of rain this spring, and they just look really terrible. I probably should have pulled all of these out and planted all of this in winter squash when I did my fall planting, but I was hopeful that some of this green would turn into tomatoes. And I mean, I do. I have little bits of tomatoes here and there, but not enough to make it worth it that I kept this, and now it's too late, so it is what it is. What I'm going to do different next year in this area though, I really contemplated on moving my tomatoes to a different part of my garden, but I don't think that that's feasible for me with the way that I have this set up. I have this trellis here, I have this big in-ground space, and I grow a lot of tomatoes. So what I am going to do next year, typically I plant on both sides and I plant a tomato every other wire. This coming year in 2026, I am going to greatly reduce the amount of tomatoes that I grow, and I am still going to go every other wire, but I'm only going to plant on one side of this trellis and hope that that offers my plants a little bit more airflow and helps them combat disease a little bit better. I am going to also treat my tomatoes weekly from the very beginning with copper fungicide. It's an antifungal, and it is going to hopefully help my tomatoes stay healthy and produce for the entire season and not tucker out 2 months, 3 months early. This front bed last fall, I planted with garlic, and then when that garlic came up, I did a succession sowing of okra. And these okra have been productive. They are giving me quite a bit now, but they were really slow to take off, and I think it was just lack of rain. So obviously I did finally get irrigation in this garden. So even if I have a lack of rain or a drought next year, which I hope I don't because that'll be the 4th year in a row here in Missouri, they should still do just fine. I will probably plant Actually, I was sitting here thinking, I don't know what I'm going to put in this bed. I don't think I'm going to do garlic in it. I think I would like to do garlic on the other side of the garden, and I'd like to put in quite a bit of it this year. I may do, I don't know, I'm just talking, but I may do the garlic in the buckets that I have my green beans in, and then when that garlic goes out, then I can plant a succession of green beans. But then I'm worried it may be a little bit too hot for them at that point, so I don't know, I need to think through that. But I don't think I'll put my garlic in this spot next year. This row was also previously cucumbers, and I pulled them out for a fall planting of cucumbers, and these are looking gorgeous. I don't think that the cucumber beetles have found them yet. They have some volunteer basil growing around them. I haven't gotten any cucumbers yet, but fingers crossed that these are going to be productive as a fall cucumber for me. The end of the garden is this asparagus patch. I won't be doing anything differently with it next year, except maybe doing a better job of keeping the weeds out. This is what asparagus looks like after the spring. You start letting all of the asparagus grow, and they grow up tall, and they put on these fronds, and they put on these little, they look like berries, but they have asparagus seeds in them, and the birds eat them, and I get asparagus all over my garden. But you just let these grow. They're gonna put energy down into the roots. These are a perennial, and they're gonna come back every single year. I hope this video is not only going to be helpful to me, but to you as well when you are planting out your garden. I think the key takeaways are that plants get big, bigger than you could imagine. And so next year I am going to really focus. Most of my beds are 3 feet wide. So for my pepper beds, I'm only going to put, if it is solely like not a bed attached to a trellis, but just an individual bed, 2 peppers side by side is plenty. And if it's a bed attached to a trellis, 1 pepper is plenty. And then I do plant the very edge with beans or onions. That goes well. I have no issues there. I'm going to stake better next year. So all of my pepper plants, I would like to be in a tomato ring or have a wooden stake to really hold them up and offer support. I'm going to space my tomatoes out a lot and really decrease the amount that I grow so that I can give them proper ventilation and airflow. I am going to treat my garden with beneficial nematodes to help take care of mainly cucumber beetles, but it also helps with squash bugs and squash vine borers. I'm going to plant my arch trellis next year as mainly a C. moscata trellis, so zucchino rampicante and honeynut squash and Long Island cheese pumpkin. And before I wrap this up, I just remembered something I forgot to show you. See these beautiful beds that I planted out for fall? They are still pretty much empty, and that is no fault of the Vago beds. That is a fault of mine. I planted these beds with brassicas mainly for a fall planting, and then for the next 2 weeks I had 90, 95, 98 degree temperatures, and everything that germinated baked pretty much in a day or two. And so these beds are fairly empty. I should have, and I will next year, start all of my brassicas in my basement where it is cooler weather for my fall planting. And then once it's this time of the year and it has cooled down and we have highs of 78, 80 degrees and cool nights, then I will move those plants into these beds. These beds aren't wasted. I am still going to plant them out now that it's this weather, but I don't have time to plant broccoli and cauliflower, I don't think. I don't know, I may throw some in there just to see what it does, but I think I'll have to mainly plant them out in spinaches and lettuces, which we love to eat those too, so no loss here. I'm still thrilled about that. but next year I will start any fall brassicas inside in my growing station. I think that is it. I think that is all I need to share with my future self when I am getting ready for my 2026 garden. I hope this video was helpful to you, and I hope to see you back next time. If you have not done so already, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and leave me a comment below, and check back in here next time for the next video. Until I see you then, may God bless.